Right about here. It's rolling. I got it. I'm going to the sign.
I've got to go back.
Yeah. Thought you came out already. Okay. What? Truck?
All right, go home.
Start over and come back in?
No.
Where's he come?
Right there.
Okay. Okay, and then we want to see the sign just behind that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Boy, you look like you worked hard last night.
I done pulled my shirt off and I'm my grimy one.
How'd it go with you over on your side?
As usual, it fell on the floor.
Really? I didn't do nothing.
Must
As
be nice.
usual.
That must be nice. You got a key.
That's unlocked.
Oh, you waiting for me to go in?
Yeah. Wait on you. Made up for Friday night.
Nathan caught me out in the parking lot. He said that John Jones told him that he tore up his warning. I asked him, did he see him tear up his warning? And he said no, and I said, you better ask to see your file.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that because I had that hour-long discussion with John Jones in his office last night about Nathan Letlow. And Nathan is lucky that they don't know how to fill out a warning sheet.
Really?
Yeah, because it was a clerical error. That's the only reason he got
That's
that
what he
warning.
told him. That's what he told him. He told him he was gonna keep it in mind and he was gonna ride his backside and.
Well, I didn't get a chance to go back here and talk to Nathan, but I will tonight because he is seriously on the hit list.
He was telling me that he said he tore it up, and I said, you better check your file. You better ask to see your file. Well, you know how that stuff goes.
I wouldn't ask to see my file for another couple of months.
Thinks he better put it off for a while, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I know he's been staying in trouble a lot.
But I heard through the that John Jones was going to talk to Lloyd about that.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and stepped in because it might have been 2 or 3 more weeks, and by that time he would have got another warning.
Well, he thought that Lloyd had done went and talked to him anyway, and I told him I'd talk to you and find out what's going on.
The best thing to do is just let it go. Because he's lucky he got it tore up.
Is this the answers to our last third steps?
What'd you get out of your box?
Yeah.
I guess.
Let's see.
What's the names?
Mm, Well, wait a minute, I'll find it in a second. When I wake up here. Levon Griggs. Yeah, that was our last third steps. Was that our second?
Yeah, his was denied. But you know, Earl Peters is...
Denied? How can they deny harassment?
It was the other part that went with it.
Oh, no, down here it says supervisor has been instructed not to use profane or abusive language when addressing employees. I know they're gonna listen to that now.
Cecil Perrette and them's got lawyers out on him.
Who?
About his the way he's been cussing everybody out.
Who does?
Cecil Perrette on first year.
What, is he a fixer?
He's one of Earl's crew. They do everything. They fix, they instruct, they put in new styles and stuff like that. And he didn't want to work the week we were off, laid off.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And he went up and talked to Dick Reese. And now Dick Reese is gonna have a conversation with Earl.
Well, what about the lawyer? You said something about a lawyer, didn't you?
Yeah, because from what I hear, somebody's gonna file some kind of lawsuit against him or something, or against the company. I think Earl says he can have an early retirement.
Well, did they have mine in this? Do you know? Let's see. No, they don't have my answer on my third.
But she had all of them.
But it's not. So we have Lavon's and John's, Steve Graham, Harold Maxwell, Lavon.
Is that from the second set of third steps? No, we had third steps twice.
I don't know how they would answer mine anyway. How would they answer mine? Mine was about them leaving.
I thought I saw an answer for your third step somewhere.
I saw a second step answer. They were going to try to
I've already emptied my phone.
unless you've already taken it out.
Oh, John's got witnesses that say that that war wasn't.
Okay, and Doris, you want to tell us about where you were born and moving into the town and so forth?
Well, I was born in Ozark, Alabama, and we moved to Richland, Georgia, and lived there about 4 years, and then I moved to Columbus, Georgia. And then I went to work in the cotton mill. And the first job I had in the cotton mill, I worked one day and I didn't even go back and get my pay. It had no air conditioning and my clothes were dripping wet when I came out. And I understand that they've improved now, that they do have air conditioning, but they were not air conditioned at that time.
What about the lint?
And the lint was terrible in there, and they had humidifiers, and the lint and the moisture would make the moisture on the body would make the lint stick to the body more and to the face, and you had to constantly wipe your face from the lint.
It always feels like bugs crawling on you when it sticks to your face.
Yes, it does.
Did you have any health problems because of?
Well, I don't know. I imagine I do. I've had little problems with my lung. I have had a little bit of asthma and a few bouts with bronchial problems. One was pneumonia, but I don't know that it could be from that.
You were talking, when we were here before, I think you were talking about the Brown Lung Association, people getting signed up for that. Could you talk about that?
Well, yes, they had a church on 2nd Avenue. It was an Assembly of God church that they set up a place and tested the people for brown lung. And some of the people were afraid to go and get tested, but some of them did go down and get tested and check for it. And
why were they afraid?
I imagine they were afraid that their foremen wouldn't like it, or the mill people wouldn't like it. I don't know, but I imagine that was why they were fearful. But some of them were afraid to be seen down there and getting the test made.
Could you talk about that fear? You mentioned fear several times.
Well, there was really a fear that people felt like they needed a job, and they were afraid that they would lose their jobs if they said anything or did anything that the company disapproved of, that the mills disapproved of. And
what made you so pro-union?
Well, I don't know. I think that it's needed to ensure healthier places to work and fair treatment. Sometimes it's...
sorry, could you start off and say, I think we need unions for?
I think that we need unions for that reason, that it makes for better work environments, and it makes for better treatment to the people. That you need, like we need the air and the environment looked over, we need the people that watches over that too.
You were talking when we were here before about Columbus and unions. What do you think about the local newspapers? Was the newspaper pro-union? And talk about all about that in the town.
I don't think that the newspapers would be for unions. I didn't, just reading, I wouldn't think that. From what I read, I wouldn't believe that they would be for unions. I don't think they have a union.
What about the politicians in the town?
Well, I'm thankful that they turned over every few years. That we just had a turnover, and I was kind of proud of that. That the politicians don't get to stay there very long, and that's one good thing for the people. We can change them.
You would, when I was here before, you were talking about the difference between the South, which didn't have unions, and the North that did have unions.
Well, yes, I had a few friends that they left the South and they went north, and they came back driving Cadillacs, and people in the South couldn't afford to drive anything hardly, and we had that war come up, and after the war a lot of people went to the North and they worked in union jobs, and they came back and they were much better off. They were able to come back and buy South then. And a lot of them have done exactly that. They worked in the unions in the North, and now they're back buying in the South. Whereas the Southern people that stayed here all the time, they can't.
Ron, how's this sound? Train?
Sorry, nothing.
Fine. Okay.
We can tell what she said.
Yeah,
Great.
sure, that's great. Okay.
How do you feel about Angie working with the union?
I think it's a good thing for Angie to work with the union. I think she's doing a good job.
I know this. We better wait till the train passes.
I remember me and Myra used to go down there and watch that train.
I just had an interesting story that I read to my grandchildren about this. He's made it to the Senate some way, but he was from Chandler, Georgia, and he said that he lived next to the railroad track, and it taught him how to tell time, how to count, and how to multiply.
Okay.
So, as we were saying, what do you think about Angie's working with the union?
I think it's a good thing for Angela, and we need young people to do that.
No, sorry. Then I think it's a good thing for Angie to work for the unions.
I think it's a good thing for Angie to work for the union.
Go ahead and then what?
Well, we need the young people to take an interest in these things and carry on. The older people that's been interested are getting too old to keep it up, so we need young people to carry on.
As far back as I can remember, she's always talked about the union and don't get in them mills without no union. You get in, if you're going to get in them old cotton mills, you get in one that's got a union. She used to scold her daughter for getting in a cotton mill that didn't have a union. Try to get her to get out of there. Get in one that had a union, and she's going to have to go back.
And Doris, some people have talked to us, used the term lint heads, and they resented, or could you talk about that? How other people felt about you?
Well, yes, I could tell about a distant relative. We were at a funeral, and you don't want to laugh at a time like this, but he told me that I asked him where he was working. He'd finished school and gone to college, and I asked him where he was working, and he told me, and I said, well, the last time I heard from you, you was working in a cotton mill. He said, said up until I went in that cotton mill and worked a few days, I felt like my parents had good sense. But after I worked in there a few days, he said, I began to wonder about them. And I couldn't help but laugh right there in the cemetery lot, because he was wondering about them working so hard and sweating so profusely to make a living for the family in that cotton mill. And he told me, he said, I'm glad I found my way out of the cotton mill.
Did you go to school with people who looked down on you because you were connected with the mills?
Well, I was out of school before I was in a community where the people would do that, but I'm sure that they did look down in Columbus. I'm sure they did, because they had a place called Boogerville, and then they had the mill villages, and I've had people to tell me that they were looked down on by the middle class and upper class people. And there was a few marriages from that I can recall, where a young lady wanted to marry a young man that worked in the cotton mill, and that didn't go over good with the family. So I know that they did look down on them, and they felt that you didn't have to have any intelligence to work in there.
And what's so funny is some of our best educated people are in that mill.
Well, that's true.
And people, especially nowadays, like John has got a bachelor in computer science, and he's in the mill, and we've got people that's got all kinds of degrees that's in there.
When I was working
One
there.
thing I think we can get a little bit better, and Doris, I want you to tell Angie about what it was like when you first went in the mills, how the breathing and so forth. I know you told her, but once more, and then Angie, I want you to tell her what it's like, how much faster the machines work, so that she
We were
had her
discussing
problems,
that.
but you've got your problems too, and I want you to show us your hands and show her your hands and explain what's happened to you because the machines are moving so fast. And finally, get to what they're trying to do now about the 12-hour day.
Yeah.
I know that's a lot, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Oh,
We're going.
Now
Yeah.
okay, ask her about what it was like when she first went in the mills.
Aunt Doris, what was it like when you first went in?
When I first went in as a spinner, and it was a lot of cotton, a lot of lint flying around. They had humidifiers and no air conditioning. and they had doffers that doffed the thread off when the spinners got through with it. They put them in huge boxes, and you stop the machine off and doff it off, and they put it in those boxes and roll it to the next place that they worked on it. But it was really hot and full of moisture, and they had to have the moisture to make the thread twist, and it made the cotton lint stick to your body more because of the moisture.
You didn't have any kind of air at all? Didn't have fans, or did you have fans?
I don't recall any fans. It didn't feel to me like they had them. They might have had them, but it might have been much worse without them, but I didn't see any fans. And they had blowers in there, and but I didn't see any fans.
I believe they used to have open windows, didn't they?
They would open the window, and the people that worked in the weave shed would really complain, and people that spinning would really complain, because then your ends came down more. If you caught somebody opening the window, you couldn't make as much on production, you know, and it kind of upset you. I can remember that.
I went to the weave shed. I've been with Hillcrest for 11, well, I'm going on 11 years this year. But I've been in the weave shed for 3 years, and they've got air conditioning sometimes, if you're lucky. Sometimes they don't. The humidifiers are still there. The conditions, I don't think, are that much better, really, because whenever the air conditioning breaks down, which is about once a week at least, you end up with your floors wet, and you're soaking wet with that lint sticking to your face, and your machine starts stopping off and tearing down. And I've got scars where I've tore my hand slap up where I was trying to get a quill out from the loom where it was
your
caught
hands
up
have kind of had it rough.
And they stay swole most of the time. But the scars are all there. They don't even look like women's hands. They look like a man's hand, calloused. And
it's hard work.
The conditions, I don't think is that much better. They're talking about going to high-speed looms, but we're still using them most stably looms. And from what I understand, 36 years, one of the ladies at work's been there, and she said they've been there ever since she's been there.
Well, they're tall, slow looms.
I run the big looms. I run the 66-inch looms. That makes two full-size tiles at a time, which you can make better money on the big looms if you can keep them running. And I haven't been doing a very good job of that lately. They've been staying tore up a lot, and the humidity's been messed up, and the air conditioning tore down a lot lately. The floors will get so wet whenever you walk across the floor. When the air conditioning is down, your feet will go out from under if you're not careful.
I hope it'll get better for you.
And Doris, could you talk about some of the people that you got to know in the mills?
Well, I met a lot of people in there that I thought were fine people, and they just needed to work for a living, and it was hard work, but they had been used to working on farms, and it was hard on the farms too, and so that they felt that they were doing a lot better for themselves working in there. And I know you've heard that old song, Cotton Mill Blues, and some people that they got here, and I guess they couldn't get away from the mills, and they just stayed and made a lifetime career of it. They lived and died in there. I know a lot of people that's retired from there, and they felt that it was good for them, but
The shame
you
of it
just
is
don't know.
you get in there and you make the money for a while, and you make good time and good money for a while, and next thing you know, they've snatched the rug out from under you, put you on 3 days, and then you have to hawk yourself to the company, to the union, to the credit union, and borrow yourself in the hole, and then you have to work 6 to 7 days and all kinds of 12-hour shifts and everything else just to catch up, if you're lucky, which I haven't done yet.
Could you explain the fact that they're trying to go into the 12-hour shift regularly?
And
I don't think she knows that.
I don't know. They're trying to come up with whenever they bring in the new looms, they want to start a 12-hour shift, continuous shift. And it's going to make it really hard on a lot of people with child care and the older people that's been there many years. I don't think they're going to be able to hold out to that kind of thing. But the way that's been put to us, if we don't accept these 12-hour shifts, they'll take the looms and move them up north where they can get somebody to run them 12 hours a day. And we'll get paid. I think most of the textiles around here has gone to that now, 12-hour shifts.
I think they've gone to that, the 12-hour shifts. They're on about 3 days or 3.5, something like that, and then they're off about 3.5. And I imagine when you're working hard, that about 8 of those hours is all you can take. 4 more would be a real hardship.
Could you talk about being in the mills and also trying to have a family?
Well, I really didn't work in the mill when my children were coming up, but I knew a lot of people that did, and they had a hard time. They would have to work on one shift and take care of the children while the other one was working, and the one stayed home, worked on maybe the 3rd shift, and slept in the daytime and let the children kind of play around because they couldn't afford to pay somebody to keep them. So that's the way a lot of people that I knew, my aunt and uncle, they would one work on one shift and the other one, and they would have one leaving when the other one was coming. It'd just be a few minutes that they would need somebody to watch them.
It's not that much different now, though. That's the sad part about it. We still have husband and wife teams that have children that they still do that aren't lucky enough to be able to have somebody take care of their kids because they're in the same hole the rest of us are, especially when we're on short time, working 3 days and 4 days a week and be laid off the next week.
And Doris, do you remember anything just specific about that 34th strike? You were talking about people being especially afraid.
Oh, well, I can just remember that they were fearful. They didn't know.
Just start the 34th strike and then.
In the 34th strike, they were fearful of, some of them lived in the mill villages, and they were fearful they were afraid that they might have to move, or it was something that they had a reason to be fearful of. It involved their shelter and their food and the whole works.
Were they worried about being blacklisted?
They sure were. And
You start over and tell me about that.
well, they were afraid that if they were found out that they were interested in the union, that they would be what they call blackballed, and they would have to go somewhere else to work. And of course, a lot of them didn't have anything but farm experience other than that cotton mill experience. And I guess they were fearful of that. And a lot of them didn't have much education. A lot of the people due to the Depression, had to quit school and go to work just to help the family survive. And I can remember